Hey guys, welcome back to Cruise Blog. This is Allie, and today I'm going to be sharing why I always stay in an inside cabin on a cruise ship and why I actually like these rooms. Let's get into it. When booking a cruise vacation, you'll need to decide what type of stateroom you want to stay in. Most of the time, this is probably driven by your budget and your travel style. Inside staterooms are usually the cheapest staterooms that you can find on a cruise. These accommodations are very basic with no frills, although you'll find the bare necessities for a very comfortable stay with a bed, closet, and bathroom. Most notably, inside cabins have no windows or balconies for cruisers to enjoy. You won't be waking up to see those stunning views of the ocean or your ports of call. Instead, these staterooms tend to be very small, and it can even feel like you're staying in a pitch black shoebox to some cruisers. So you might be wondering at this point, why would anybody want to book an inside cabin? You'd be surprised to know these cabins are not nearly as bad as they might sound. In fact, I almost always book an inside cabin when I cruise for a number of reasons. Here's why I prefer to actually stay in an inside cabin when I cruise, and reasons why you should also consider booking one for your next cruise. First and most importantly, inside cabins are very affordable, so I can stretch my vacation budget further. One of the biggest perks of staying in an inside cabin is being able to save a big chunk of change. I love to cruise and travel, so the further that I can stretch my budget, the better. I've sailed on more than 30 cruises, and more than half of these have been in an inside cabin. This has undoubtedly saved me thousands of dollars over the years. Without this kind of savings from sailing in an inside cabin, I wouldn't be able to travel nearly as much as I've been blessed to do. Inside cabins are anywhere from hundreds to thousands of dollars cheaper than most cabins on board. While sometimes the price discrepancies are minimal, other times they can be drastically different. Saving thousands of dollars allows me to spend that money not only on future cruises, but also on fun excursions, drinks, an internet package, my airfare, and more. Also, you can always upgrade your inside cabin or reprice to save more money. One of the best ways I save money on a cruise is living by the motto of book now and reprice later. Sometimes the price of a cruise will drop as the embarkation date approaches, which is typically due to lower demand. However, the price can also increase if demand for a certain sailing is very high. As such, it's best to book your cruise as soon as possible. You can always reprice your sailing before final payment if the price drops. This strategy alone has saved me thousands of dollars. Inside cabins are super quiet compared to other staterooms on board as well. This is especially true for cruise ships that have more unique balconies available, such as Royal Caribbean's bigger Oasis-class ships. On these cruise ships, you can book a balcony stateroom with visibility into Central Park, the boardwalk, or even the promenade on Royal Caribbean's Oasis-class ships. Earlier this year, I sailed in a promenade stateroom on board Royal Caribbean's Liberty of the Seas. Instead of having a view of the ocean, we had a window overlooking the ship's promenade. And while it was fun to have a different view than we're used to, this room was super noisy. On the other hand, inside staterooms without any sort of window or balcony are typically very quiet because there's no areas for noise to come in. This is especially true if you strategically pick your cabin's location to be sandwiched around other cabins. This is just another reason why I love choosing an inside cabin. In addition, I always sleep great in an inside cabin because it is pitch black. Without any natural light shining through, I always sleep fantastic when cruising in an inside cabin. Again, inside cabins don't have any window or balcony, so normally you'll just find maybe a large mirror or some wall decor to decorate the space. Not only can you sleep well at night, but you can also take a nap at any hour of the day. This is one of my favorite perks of an inside cabin, especially for those port-intensive itineraries. With a pitch black inside stateroom, you can quickly fall asleep at any hour of the day without that natural light keeping you up. Next, inside cabins have all the necessities needed for a comfortable stay, even without much space. Some might imagine staying in an inside cabin feels claustrophobic or cheap since you don't have that balcony or window. However, all inside cabins come with the necessities that you need for a very comfortable stay during your vacation. Inside cabins will normally have a big king bed, a bathroom, shower, closet, vanity, and even a sofa or chair if you're lucky. During your cruise vacation, you're more than likely spending most of your time exploring a ship or ashore in port. Regardless of which cabin you choose to stay in, you're really not spending all that much time in your cabin anyway. Also, inside cabins are built to utilize the small space as efficiently as possible. While it certainly isn't super spacious by any means, you won't feel cramped either. I've never felt claustrophobic when cruising in an inside cabin. I've found that cruise lines typically have very thoughtfully designed inside cabins, and that's especially true on newer ships. Next, you don't feel pressure to spend much time in your cabin when sailing in an inside stateroom. Although I normally choose to cruise in an inside cabin, I've also had the privilege of sailing in balcony cabins and even entry-level suites. When staying in these more expensive cabins, I feel this obligation to spend that extra time in my room. I want to make sure that I'm getting my money's worth and taking advantage of any perks that I receive with those higher-end staterooms. Comparatively, I never feel pressure to spend ample time in my inside cabin. Most of the time, I want to explore the ship or spend my days experiencing new ports, cities, or countries. I have zero guilt if I only end up sleeping and showering in that cabin. In this case, my inside cabin is just a place for me to rest and reset. In addition, some inside cabins have virtual balconies or windows, and that can create a unique experience for cruisers. When looking to book an inside cabin, you'll probably find that some staterooms offer virtual views. Newer ships have installed screens that replicate whatever the ship is seeing outside in real time. For example, Royal Caribbean's virtual balconies feature floor-to-ceiling screens in an inside cabin that project the ship's outside view for guests who don't have a real window or balcony. Similarly, fellow cruise blog writer Haley sailed in a solo cabin on board Norwegian Encore recently. This cabin, which is designed for just one passenger, featured a small virtual window for her to enjoy throughout her 4-night solo cruise, and she said this was one of her favorite features of the room. Of course, a virtual screen doesn't really come close to replicating the actual views from a cruise ship, window, or balcony, but this can be super nice to see what the weather looks like, where the ship is currently located, or even if the sun has set or risen in the morning. And it also just creates a fun, unique experience for cruisers. Another reason I love an inside cabin is because I don't have to worry about my inconsiderate balcony neighbors. On my recent cruise, we stayed in a balcony cabin sailing around Iceland after I upgraded for $300. Although the views were so stunning, we had a less than ideal neighbor next to us for the entire 12-night sailing. Even though marijuana is illegal on a cruise ship and smoking is prohibited on balconies, our neighbor didn't seem to hold back from either of those. While the cruise line handled this issue flawlessly, we weren't able to enjoy our balcony during those first few days with the fresh air because of this. Even though we paid extra to have this balcony space and enjoy it, we weren't able to peacefully sit and watch the scenery without massive stench coming from our disrespectful neighbor. I started to think about how this would never happen if we had booked an inside cabin. All that you share with your neighbor is a wall, so there's no chance of something like this happening. Of course, your neighbors can still be noisy and disruptive, but you most likely won't have to worry about something on the balcony happening. So is an inside cabin right for you? First-time cruisers might get overwhelmed when trying to decide which type of stateroom to book for their upcoming cruise. After all my years of cruising, I can assure you that there's no bad stateroom category on a cruise ship. You'll first want to consider your budget. Those looking to save money should definitely consider booking an inside cabin. These staterooms will undoubtedly be cheaper than almost anything else on your cruise ship. When saving money on your cabin, you can focus on spending money on things that matter to you more. This could include excursions, drink packages, specialty dining, onboard experiences, airfare, and more. Next, you might want to consider what type of itinerary you're booking. If you are sailing on a very port-intensive itinerary, you will not be spending much time in your cabin anyway. You'll be ashore exploring all of the amazing destinations of your cruise. On the flip side, if your cruise has more time at sea, you could consider booking a higher-end stateroom if you anticipate that you'll be wanting to spend more time in your cabin. Your itinerary's destination can also play an important role for whether an inside cabin is right for you. If you're sailing to somewhere like Alaska, Iceland, or Norway, I would recommend looking into a balcony stateroom so that you can relish in all the stunning scenery. For those sailing to the Caribbean, you won't have as many beautiful views once your cruise sets sail from port, since you'll just be sailing from island to island. Finally, are you someone who likes to be very busy on vacation? Those busy bees will highly benefit from an inside cabin because you won't be wanting to spend much time in there. Comparatively, guests who maybe like to go back to their private space for some peace and quiet might find this splurge worthwhile to have a higher end stateroom with more space and amenities. If you anticipate spending a decent amount of time in your cabin, this investment could be right for you. All right, everybody, those are all the reasons why I prefer to stay in an inside cabin when I cruise. Comment below what kind of stateroom you like to stay in and whether you think an inside cabin is right for you. Thanks for tuning in today, everybody, and be sure and like and subscribe to Cruise Blog so you can be notified every time we have a new video. Until next time, happy cruising.